I was just yesterday, I was reading 16 of her most famous quotes, because Mother Teresa is like my hero. Every single one of those quotes are inspiring. If you can't feed 100 people, just feed one. I love that. Because everybody feels overwhelmed, because when you look at the problem is gigantic. It's too big for all of us. And sometimes we think that we've got to do it all. But you know what? If I love on one person, if I help feed one person, if I help give one person a shower, God will take care of the rest. All He asks us to do is just try.
There was a reason that Jesus loved to feed the hungry, because He brought them in. He fulfilled their physical needs, but also their emotional and physical needs. It's not just dollars and cents. It's time, it's treasure, but it's also talent. My talents are around organizational management, making things operate and run smoothly, and organizing things.
I provide love, I provide hope, and I provide the good news that we have a God that loves us. And that's what I do.
Yes, it's about servicing, and what they do in their servicing, they do a lot, with their hearts. And I see a lot of their heart and what they're doing for the Lord and honoring Him that way. It is truly a blessing and inspiring to see what they're doing.
It's been a blessing to be here in this ministry and be acquainted with these men.
The tool that we use is compelling people to come in, to have an opportunity to be a witness for Christ, be able to introduce them to the Lord.
We look at the entire person, the way that Christ looked at the entire person. We can take a man off the streets who has nothing.
Even if you're having a bad day or stressful situation, the love that Carol has, you have something to give out too, because she's just that type of person.
Brian has been a blessing to me. He's answered a prayer, him and his wife. I've been praying for someone to come alongside me and really help me in this type of ministry by doing everything.
It's easy to work with men like that because we're all growing in Christ, and we inspire each other and encourage each other in different ways. So it's very blessed to work with these guys.
I think radical generosity is any type of giving that we do that is out of our comfort zone. That's just a little bit different, or a little bit more, or a little bit unexpected for each of us.
Jesus was absolutely radically generous. It's waking up every day, wanting, desiring, finding joy, and serving those that are impoverished in our community. Riverbend is one of their key tenets for years has been meeting folks where they are. These are impoverished and marginalized folks in our community, in our backyard, that need the love of Christ. So we see radical generosity here every day, and that's one of the reasons I think that Carol and I are just drawn to this ministry.
Whatever it is, big or small, whether it be your time, your talents, or your treasure, just try it and see what happens, because God will do the rest.
Doesn't get any better than that. Or does it? I wonder. Is the best of us saying we are the best we can ever be now? Or is the best of us a willingness to always say, this may be good, this may even be great, this may be the best I've ever seen, but it can always get better? I wonder, is the best of us the willingness to say, I can always do better? I wonder about that. Would you pray with me? Father in heaven, I would ask that the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart would be pleasing in your sight. That you would use your words spoken by your servant, anointed by your Spirit, to challenge us, to bless others as we have been blessed. Pray that for myself and for my family, for all of us here, for anyone who will encounter this place or these people or this message. We pray for your blessings. In Jesus' name, amen. I know that all of you think that I'm a pretty cool guy. You don't have to say it, I know. And my wife and I were just a cool couple, but you have no idea how really cool we are. Because you see, we lived downtown for 10 years. That's how cool we are. We are hipsters. We live downtown. That was our home. That was our neighborhood. When we first moved to Austin, we lived in a little apartment up off of Mesa Drive for a couple of years, trying to get settled. And then we said, we want to live downtown. We love downtown. Our kids are gone. We can have sort of the urban lifestyle. And we loved it. And we spent a number of years looking for and hoping to find a place where we could buy downtown. But if you price things downtown, they're absurd. But God really provided. A handful of years ago, he provided this little condo on the west end or on the east end of downtown, in the coolest place in downtown, in the Rainey Street district. We were right at the end of Red River. We were so hip, we even were hip to ourselves. We were like in Hipster Central in Rainey Street. And the years that we lived down there, we loved living down there because everything was happening all around us. I mean, I remember one time standing out on our balcony, our little balcony of our little condo, overlooked Lady Bird Lake and Waller Creek there, and we could watch the fireworks on New Year's and on the 4th of July from our living room. Boom! How awesome is that? And one day I was standing out on our balcony and I was looking over downtown and I saw 11 tower cranes. We literally watched Rainey Street and watched the downtown area sort of explode and grow up around us. It was awesome. I mean, it was so awesome when South by Southwest would go on, we had to get police passes to get to our own parking garage. I mean, we didn't go to South by Southwest, it came to us. That's how cool we were. But 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, some developer with more money than sense came to our HOA, and there were 52 units in our little condo, and they said, we're going to pay you a lot of money for your condos. And fortunately, everybody in our HOA said, you have more money than sense, we'll take it, thank you very much, goodbye. And so we cashed out. I like to say that we won the housing lottery. And so we had enough that we moved out here to Westlake. And it's boring out here. It's just so boring. We're so suburban. And no doubt God orchestrated everything. We love where we live and we love our neighbors and we love the community that we're in. But it's not the same as downtown. But I see downtown a little differently now. I see the center of Austin. When we lived downtown, we kind of felt like we had the pulse of the city. And it felt like we were in the middle of it. Now we're kind of looking at it from the outside. And I'm noticing the things that are changing. I'm starting to wonder if it's necessarily all good. Starting to see some of the decisions that are made and some of the policies that are established. And I'm thinking, this doesn't seem to me to be really the best choice. Now, far be it for me to criticize those people who dedicate themselves to serving us and to serving our community and serving our city. And I'm the kind of person who really despises people who go around pointing out what's wrong without saying, here's how to make it right, or I will help make it right. Anybody, it doesn't take intelligence, it doesn't take great insight to see what's wrong. What takes commitment, what takes courage, what takes vision is to say, I see what's wrong and I have an idea about how we can make it better. Because I think that's the best of us. I think the best of us looks at things as they are and says, I see where we can improve. I see how we can get better. And so I see where our city is at, where our community is at, where our world is at, and I say, how can I make it better? How can we make it better? Well, today I want to suggest that we can learn some lessons that are ancient 3,500-year-old wisdom. And I want to share with you some lessons from what is called the law of Peach. The law of Peach is a Hebrew word. It occurs 82 times in the Hebrew Bible. 77 times it is an architectural term. The term Peach describes the side of a building, or the side of a wall, or the corner of a table, or the side. It describes 77 times, the word Peach is used. It describes a physical object. But 5 of the times that it's used very specifically, not to describe a specific object, but to describe the corner of a field. It appears twice in the law of Moses, in the book of Leviticus. And in the book of Leviticus, Moses established the law of the Peach. In Leviticus chapter 19, this is when we're first introduced to it. It says, when you reap the harvest of your land, do not reap to the Peach, the very corners or the very edges of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. Do not go over your vineyard a second time, or pick up the grapes that have fallen. Leave them for the poor and the homeless, the foreigner. I am the Lord your God. The word Peach appears again in Leviticus chapter 23. The same thing he says. He says, when you reap the harvest of your land, do not reap to the Peach. Do not reap to the very edges of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. Leave them for the poor and for the homeless, the foreigners residing among you. I am the Lord your God. This is a mandate for the people of God to take care of those who were living in poverty, those who were homeless, those who were marginalized. They were to leave them the corners of their field. And in an agrarian culture where everything that you survived on had to be grown, had to be raised, or you had to go and find it and hunt it and prepare it yourself, in that culture, the corners of the field mattered. In fact, every grain that fell, every grape on the vine mattered. Every one was a gift of life. And so giving just the corners of your field was a sacrifice. And you're thinking, okay, Dave, I haven't gleaned in my field in a long time. I don't even have a field. I don't have vineyards, olives, or grapes. I can't remember the last time that I winnowed grain. So how does the law of Peach apply to us? Well, I'm going to suggest 3 ways. I want to suggest 3 lessons of the law of Peach that help us give our best, be our best, and make the city that we live in and the world that we live in just a little bit better. The first law of the Peach is this. It is impossible to legislate compassion. It is impossible to pass a law to mandate care. It is impossible to legislate compassion, but it is possible to leverage conviction. Now, that may sound like a nuanced difference, and it is, but I know in my lifetime, in the lifetime of many of us, we have seen laws passed that have made us a better people, that have given opportunities to people who didn't have them, that have brought into the consciousness of our society those who were dehumanized or those who were marginalized. We have seen our society, I believe, improve because of the mandates, the legislations to change the way we treat one another, to change the way we look at one another. But and this is a complex issue, no doubt. And there are exaggerations of people who go to the extremes with this legislation, and the complexity of it can discourage us until we realize one thing. You can't make me care. You can pass all the laws in the world, but you can't make me care if I don't want to. You can say, here's how you have to behave, but that doesn't mean I have to love. You cannot legislate love. You can create opportunities. You can level the playing field. You can remove boundaries and barriers, but you cannot legislate compassion. So what was Jesus doing? Jesus talked a lot about this. I mean, he was asked a number of times in his life. It's in all of the Gospels. There is someone who comes to him and he says, what's the most important law? What's the greatest commandment? In the book of Matthew, he says, well, the greatest commandment, and he says it in all the other Gospels, he says the greatest commandment is love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, and your mind. And there's a second one. There's 1A and 1B. And the second one is love your neighbor as yourself. He talked a lot about the mandate to love, the mandate to care. In fact, in the Synoptic Gospels, in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, he says, don't just love people that love you. That's easy. Any idiot can love people that love you. If you are my disciples, you are going to love your enemies. You are going to love your enemies and you're going to lend to people without expecting anything back. What he's saying is you're going to love the unlovable. You're going to love the people who cannot love you in return. You're going to love the people who it is hard to love. And in case you misunderstand what he's saying, he comes straight out with it in the book of John. In John chapter 13, he said, I give you a new command. I give you a new law. Here's the new command, that you love others as I have loved you. This is how men will know you are my disciples, because you love one another just as I have loved you. And in John 15, he comes straight out with it. He says, this is my command, that you love each other. But there's a difference, you see. There's a nuance between a legislation that says, okay, you have to treat people a certain way, and Jesus saying, if you want to follow me, you need to be characterized by your love. And the difference is fear. Because the only way you can legislate compassion is to say, if you violate this law, we will punish you. If you don't conform to the new standard of cultural norms, you will be marginalized. Jesus makes no such opportunity. He says, look, if you want to be the person I'm calling you to be, love the unlovable. Love one another. That's just out there. It's a question of character, not a question of compassion. See, the law of Peach is interesting. It doesn't say, leave the corners of your field for the poor and for the homeless, for the foreigner and the widow and the orphan, because you care for them. It doesn't say that. Compassion is not required. What is required is the cultivation of our character. God was saying, if you want to be my people, if you want to please me and obey me, you will give the corners of your field. Because God knows you can't legislate compassion. God, you cannot mandate that I'm going to love someone. You can pass every law in the world and criticize me. You can throw me in prison. But it's still only my choice. It rests with the individual for the community, not in the community for the individual. First lesson of the law of Peach is that you can't, it's impossible to legislate compassion, but you can leverage conviction and develop character. The second lesson of the law of Peach is the law that says it's impossible to really help another person by destroying yourself. It is impossible to help another person by destroying yourself, but it is possible to genuinely help someone else while maintaining healthy boundaries. It is impossible to really help another person if you're helping them destroys you. Now, I know there are examples, there are extreme examples of sacrifice, of the man who throws himself on the grenade, of the hero who goes into the crossfire to rescue a friend. The Christian narrative is built on the ultimate sacrifice who laid down his life for his friends. But those are one-time deals. Once you destroy yourself, you have nothing left to give. You're like the lifeguard who swims out and drowns while they're trying to save another person. You have to have boundaries. You have to have margins. And I know if you're a young parent and you're here today, particularly if you're a single parent, you have no margins. There's no corners of your field. You don't have, you're out over the edge all the time, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I have no margins, I have no extra. I am sacrificing myself, everything that I am. I'm sacrificing my physical health, my financial health, my mental health for my children. I'm giving them everything. You're doing them no favors. Because that's not called parenting, that's called codependency. There's a book that was written about 20 years ago by a woman named Melody Beatty. It's called Codependent No More. And here's how she defines codependency. A codependent person is one who has let another's behavior affect him or her, and who is obsessed with controlling that person's behavior. Codependent people bend over backwards to avoid hurting people's feelings, and in so doing, hurt themselves. Codependency is an overreaction. It overreacts or underreacts, but it rarely acts. Codependent behavior is self-destructive. It reacts to people who are self-destructive by destroying itself. I know there are a lot of you here who are familiar with that behavior. You grew up in codependent families. You grew up in codependent family systems. Perhaps you're operating in one now because you are determined to rescue your prodigal child. You are sacrificing your life to fix your broken spouse. And you are destroying yourself in order to save or fix or rescue that person. That is not only theologically inappropriate, it is also psychologically inappropriate. And our churches do it all the time. We become that way as churches. We enable people, we empower people, and it's a razor's edge, you see. Knowing the difference between loving someone and enabling someone. But the difference is when I have to fix you for what I do to matter. When if I can't repair you, then my effort is no good. I see this in our attitudes, in the ways that we try to address the problems in our culture and in our community and in our city. And we do ourselves no favors by saying we're going to burn this down in order to save this. It doesn't make any sense. That's not what the law of Peach was about. The law of Peach says you're supposed to leave the corners of your field. The rest is yours. Just the corner. And it doesn't say how much of the corner. You can leave just a tiny little corner. Say, I did my job. I put $5 in the offering plate. That's good enough. I picked up a tag that said I can support in this Angels of Foot effort. I did my. It doesn't even say how many corners. Corners, so it implies at least 2. But imagine if you had center pivot irrigation like in Nebraska. I don't have any corners on my field. Don't gotta leave nothing. It's okay. It's not about the quantity. It's about the intent. It's about the willingness to say, I will give some and live on the rest because there's more than enough. And you know what also it doesn't say? It doesn't say take what falls on the ground. Go back a second time and pull off of the trees the olives and pull off the vines the grapes and go through the fields and gather up the individual grains that fell and then cut the corners of your field and put it all together and take it to them. It doesn't say that. You see, the widow and the foreigner and the orphan and the poor have to come out to the field and they have something to do. It gives them the dignity of saying, we left this for you, but you have to earn it. You have to come get it. You see, we don't really help other people by destroying ourselves. It is possible, it is entirely possible to really help others in significant ways, while at the same time maintaining healthy boundaries and saying, no, I can't help with that. That's a bridge too far. I can't go there. You don't help anyone when what you do destroys you. There's a third law, or third lesson in the law of Peach, and it's real simple. The third lesson is that it is impossible to eradicate poverty. It is impossible to eliminate poverty completely forever from our world. But it is possible to do something meaningful, to do something valuable. It is possible. 3,500 years ago, there were poor people. There were homeless people. 3,500 years from now, there will be poor people. There will be homeless people. And I know that if you look at the problem, if you get up close to the problem of poverty in our world, it is overwhelming. You see, there's two lies that we believe, or at least that we fall victim to. The first lie is this. The first lie is the problem is so great that if I can't do everything, I don't need to do anything. The need is so massive, it is so overwhelming, since I can't do everything, it's pointless to do anything. And the numbers back that up. I mean, I spent the week reading through numbers of GMOs, and they have different calculations. The United Nations currently estimates that 11% of the world's population lives on less than $1.90 a day. I read a statistic that said 50%, like 3.5 billion people, live on less than $2.50 a day. Once you get up into billions of people, that's a massive amount of people. I mean, it's a massive amount of people. It's estimated by UNICEF, the arm of the United Nations that cares for children, that 15 million children live with daily malnutrition. That 5,000 children a day die because of unsanitary conditions and because of unclean drinking water. I mean, those numbers are incredible. If there were 5 children dying an hour, and we watched that happen, it would overwhelm us. We'd say 1 hour is enough, not 24 hours a day, 360. The problem is enormous. And we don't do ourselves any favors either when we hyperbolize. And I know if you want to cast vision, if you want to sell something, if you want to stir up a charitable organization, you speak in hyperbole. We are going to eliminate poverty. We are going to eliminate homelessness. I really respect Habitat for Humanity. You know what their vision statement is? Their vision statement is to give dignified housing to every person on the planet. Okay, 3,500 years from now, we'll still be working on that one. And that's a bold vision, and I respect that. But that gets in our head, and we start to think, because I can't do everything, what's the point of doing anything? See, the law of Peach says give the corner. Just give the corner. Just give that little piece. It doesn't say solve the problem of poverty. It doesn't say correct the problem of homelessness. It doesn't say end these things. It just says do what you can. Do your part. Just give your corner. First lie that we believe is because the problem is so great and I can't do everything, then I don't have to do anything. The second lie we believe is right now I have nothing to offer. My life is over the edge. My life is at the margins. I don't have anything to give. And I know that there are seasons in our life when the trials and the weight is so significant that we're saying, I got nothing. I can barely survive on my own. I don't need to go down to Travis Heights and add the drama of those people's lives. I can't do it. Well, maybe you can't do that, but there is something you can do. We can all do something. I understand, and I've been there. I've been in that season of life when making ends meet was a daily miracle, when we were paying for our rent out of the coins we would find in our couch. I know what that is. But even then, there is something you can do. There is a corner you can give. Even if it's just to go out and take one of those tags from Angels Afoot and buy a present for one of those children in this system that is marginalized and without a family and losing hope. And you can do that one thing, and that one thing matters. Because the law of Peach says, I just want you to give the corner. Just give that piece. Because everybody has a corner. Even when you're living over the margins, you still have something to offer. We'll never eradicate poverty. We'll never eliminate from the face of the earth forever. The struggle, the life we live, the world we live in is too brutal. We are marooned on a mutinous planet, but we can all do something. We can all do something valuable, and we can all do something meaningful. Because what the law of Peach was about was seeding in the people of God the idea of grace. You see, when you live an agricultural life, nothing's guaranteed. When you live on a farm, there are so many variables that you cannot control. You can't control the weather. You can't control whether there's too much rain or not enough rain. You can't control whether or not the seeds that you put in the ground will germinate. You can't control whether at some point when you're working the field, you'll fall and you'll break your leg or you'll break your ankle or you'll get pneumonia or you'll be stricken with some disease. You can't control that. You can't control that one day over the hills of your country, the enemy armies will march in. And they will rob you of your crops and destroy your home and take your family. Nothing is guaranteed. So every year when there was a harvest, there was a reason to give thanks. There was a reason to recognize the grace of God, that this is a blessing. That even though I work hard and I do everything that I can, there were no guarantees. And now that I have it, the purpose is not simply to keep it to myself. It has a mechanism by which I can show the grace that I have been shown. This is the lesson of the Peach. The lesson that you can't legislate compassion. You can't pass a law to make people care. You can't legislate love, but you can leverage character and leverage conviction. You can't say, what kind of person do you want to be? Not or else, but just because. And it's impossible to help others. You don't help anyone in helping them destroying yourself. It's not helpful. Now you have 2 needy people instead of 1. But we can really help people by maintaining healthy boundaries, by living within our means, by saying no, that's too far. And the law of Peach also teaches us there will always be the poor. We'll never eradicate poverty. There will always be widows and orphans. There will always be homeless people. But that doesn't mean we can't do anything. That means we can all do something that matters. Because the grace we have been given, the blessings we have been shown, have the ability to make a difference. All of them. In the writings of Moses in the Torah, the final book of the law, the book of Deuteronomy, where the law was expanded upon, it is said a second time. In Deuteronomy chapter 24, it explains the details of the law of the Peach. It says, when you are harvesting in your field and you overlook a sheaf, do not go back to get it. Leave it for the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow, so that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hands. When you beat the olives from your trees, do not go over the branches a second time. Leave what remains for the homeless, for the foreigner, for the disenfranchised, for the fatherless, and the widow. When you harvest the grapes in your vineyard, do not go over the vines again. Leave what remains for the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow. And here's the point. Remember that you were slaves. You were slaves in Egypt. And this is why I'm telling you to do this. Because you have been blessed. You should be a blessing to others because you know my grace show my grace to others. Far be it for me to criticize our city leaders, their decisions. I look at it and I say, I think we can do better. I just do. I don't think this is our best. I hope it's not our best. I hope we can come up with ways to do it. But far be it from me, not just to not criticize, but not to offer a solution. To say I can give my corner of the field. I can do my part. I can help make it better. I'm not just going to sit there and point fingers. Because whether we like it or not, our city is changing. It always will change. Every healthy community has to change. Growth always demands change. And change is good, and we can embrace change. But I miss living downtown. I really do. I mean, I miss it. And out here is wonderful, and we have a beautiful neighborhood and a beautiful home, and we're blessed, but geez, I feel old and boring. I mean, living downtown was so cool, but I can't go back. Can't go back. Literally, I cannot go back because this happened. That's our condo. That shovel right now is tearing down our kitchen. It's about to move over, and what it's going to take out, that's our kitchen. That's where we lived. Here it goes. Our kitchen is now gone. Where we ate our meals, where we cooked our food, that was our kitchen right there. He's going to tear the whole thing down. Here it goes. I must have cleaned that 1,000 times. Gone. Gone. Literally, the home we lived in is a pile of rubble at the end of Red River. I can't go back. As nostalgic as I want to be, as much as I want to return to those days, I can't and I shouldn't. That was the best, living downtown, it really was. And a lot of things that we're doing to help out people in the city are the best. But I wonder, is it really the best if we think it can't get better? Or maybe our best always says, that's great, that's awesome, that's the best ever. But it can be better. Maybe that's what the definition of our best is. Not that our best is what was, but that our best is yet to come. It doesn't get any better than that.